Jamel Crothers. It's the 2008 NBA playoffs. Let's get into the discussion of this New Orleans-San Antonio series. The first two games have come and gone so quickly. And I just realized today that Game 2 is already done in that series. And no other teams have even started Game 2s. And Boston and Cleveland hasn't even started Game 1. But let's get down to business. Game 1, New Orleans comes out and beats them 101-82. And then Game 2, 102-84, which was just last night's game. You know what the difference is in this series? The third quarter. The third quarter is whatever happens in that locker room with New Orleans comes out and they come out with a fire in them. So, Game 1. New Orleans outscores them 29-17, blows the game open, wins the game 101-82. Game 2, last night. New Orleans comes out 36-18 in the third quarter, blows the game open, wins the game 102-84. Obviously, New Orleans is doing a great job. Whatever Byron Scott is doing to Tim Duncan is great because Tim Duncan is out of focus, out of sync. He's getting doubled. He's getting played physically. He's getting kept off the boards. Game 1, atrocious 1-for-9 performance, 5 points, 3 rebounds. Game 2, 18 points and 8 rebounds, which is pretty good, but you're used to Tim Duncan having 20 and 10 games. So guess what? Tim Duncan's out of focus and out of sync. Byron Scott is not going to let Tim Duncan beat his team in the NBA playoffs. It's as simple as it gets. Phoenix could not stop the big three, and that's what killed him in the series. This series is going to be a whole different story. Tim Duncan has to find ways to score the ball. Game 1, Bruce Bowen, he was the role player that stepped up. 17 points, 5 three-pointers. He played great. Game 2, 4 points. No other role player stepped up last night except Brent Barry, but that was in closing time. In garbage time, he had 14 points. It wasn't going to matter. Tony Parker played great Game 1. 23, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Last night, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. It doesn't get any better than that. Manu Ginobili, 19 points in Game 1. Game 2, only 13. Guess what? San Antonio, they're a half-court team. But when it gets down to it, they have to be able to shoot the ball better. They have to stop shooting all those threes, get mid-range shots. They have to get Michael Finley open for some shots because Michael Finley was a difference maker in that Phoenix series, and he did have some good games in the starting lineup. Now, for the New Orleans Hornets, they are a fast tempo team. That's the only way they play. They really don't have too much of a set offense. They like to push the ball in transition. That's what Byron Scott likes to do. He did it with the Nets, and he's doing it with the New Orleans Hornets. Peja Stojakovic, 22 points, 4 rebounds, Game 1. Game 2, 25 points, 6 rebounds. Why? Because Chris Paul likes to push the ball. When you push the ball in transition, San Antonio is going to clog up that lane, and guess what happens? Peja is left open. Peja hits 2 3-pointers in Game 1. That gives him the confidence. He drives to the basket a little bit on Bruce Bowen, makes him play some defense, and then guess what he does in Game 2? Knocks down 5 3-pointers. It gets no easier than that. David West, 30 points, 9 rebounds, Game 1. Game 2, 10 and 10. 2 for 11 shooting. But you know what? It wasn't even missed that much. Why? Because Chris Paul came out and had 30 points and 12 assists last night. Game 1 wasn't that great for Chris Paul as far as offense, maybe 17 points, but he had 13 assists. So when it all boils down to it, as long as Chris Paul is dishing the ball and giving everybody involved, that's how New Orleans is going to be able to win. Tyson Chandler controlling the paint. 10 points, 15 rebounds, and 3 blocks in Game 1. Game 2, he only had 5 points, but guess what? He still had 11 rebounds, and he still had 2 blocks. It gets no easier than that. And then the role players. I said that Bonzi Wells and Jannero Pargo were going to be key players coming off the bench. And in Game 1, Bonzi Wells came off the bench and had 10 points and shot 5 of 9. It's pretty much what it boils down to. Role players and whether these star players are going to step up in the NBA playoffs. Everyone's been saying New Orleans does not have the playoff experience. Guess what? Peja has it. Peja's been there. And that's why Peja is having a great series right now. And that's why he's averaging 23.5 points per game. That's pretty much the gist of it. And if San Antonio can go home and readjust themselves and get themselves back into the series, I think it'll make for an interesting one going 7 games. That's my report on the New Orleans Hornets and the San Antonio Spurs. I'm Jamel Crothers.